Alright guys, welcome back. Second time I have to record this because my recording cut out a bit way too early the last time. Anyways, that is not your guys' fault, so I'll just quickly re-record what I had to catch up. So, what we covered in the last episode was what every one of these little icons does, what it does, or what it has to do with, and how it works. Now, we're going to start with the following. First things first, we're going to need to create, we're going to click on window and world settings. This will allow you to view the current world settings and should put it next to your details tab. Then we're going to first create a new folder called blueprints. If I could just spell blueprints, there we go. I'm going to go into it and create a new blueprint class straight away and create a game mode. This is going to be, let's make a game mode main. Alright, so we'll save that, we'll open it up by double clicking it, we'll spin that there, and what we'll change is the default pawn class in 1 second. So, we're going to go back to content, we're going to right click and create a new folder called player. Inside player, we're going to create a new blueprint class with a character as a character parent. Now we're going to name this, let's make a game main player character. We're going to save and we're going to go back to the game mode, and we'll change that to the default. We'll compile and save. And while we add it, we can actually click on this little arrow and say save and compile on success only. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to say edit and project settings. First thing we're going to do is we're going to change the default game mode to our current game mode. So the default game mode becomes our main game mode, and then we're going to go down to input while we are here. Now, there's two different types of input. There's action mappings and axis mappings. Action mappings are single button presses such as spacebar for jump or mouse click to shoot. So what we're going to do is we're going to create three different buttons, three different actions. So an action mapping, and we'll call this jump. Alright, which will be expanded, and we'll click on this and type in space bar. Alright, so spacebar will then let us jump. Well, that's the input name. Then we'll create two axis mappings, calling this move forward, and this will be move backward. We'll actually create this as a little bit more of a complex system so that it can be more expandable. So you're going to just select whatever button you want. We'll have this and up arrow. We have to look on the keyboard for up. Move backward, change this to S. Fold down gamepad and click that. Add another one. This adds another axis. This will be down. I'm doing this so that we can actually have more than one way to move around for left-handed people, right-handed people. Then we'll create one called move right, and we'll add another one straight away. So this will be D, not on gamepad, it will be there. And this will be right. Then we'll create another axis mapping called move left, and move left will be A on the keyboard and left on the keyboard. Alright, we're going to saving does not work here. This gets written to an INI file as you're busy with. Now, in order to move forward, your axis scale will have to be 1. If your axis scale is 0, you will not be moving anyway. If you're moving backwards, however, your axis scale will not be 1, it will be -1. I almost stopped recording by accident. -1 once again. Then move right. So forward and right are always positive axis, xi. And that means that move left will be the -1 once again, and -1 will move right, will be positive. Then we're going to also create a mouse horizontal look and a mouse vertical look. Alright, so here we'll type in mouse horizontal would be as on the horizon, so it will be mouse X. Here it will be mouse Y. While you're at the mouse Y, what you're going to do is, actually, we're going to keep it the same. Alright, so now that everything here has been set up that we need, we're going back to minimal default and we're going to open up our player. Now, I'm going to click on this capsule and change this to, I think, 50. Yeah, 50 looks good. The capsule allows us to do any sort of collisions with a physics object, with the floor, with everything we need. So we do need it. Now, the first thing we're going to disable is this mesh. Because this mesh is actually a skeletal mesh, we cannot use it, so we'll disable cast shadows, visible, and auto activate, which means that this mesh is technically useless. I just cannot delete it because it is inherited. So what we're going to do is we're going to add a component. A component is a piece of your player, and we're going to type in mesh. There's different types of meshes. Skeletal mesh is used mostly for characters with animations. However, I'm using a static mesh because I do not have animations. So player mesh is the name of this static mesh, and we'll scroll up and we'll actually select the mesh. You can select whatever you want. If you have an animated character, go ahead and use that. I'm going to just use a cone. I'm going to use the cone, and this is now my character. I'm also going to compile this, and I'm going to change this material just so I know that this is my cone, this is me. I want to be cool, and I want to be a pulsing hexagon. Now, on the top here you have different controls. So this is select and translate object, shortcut key is W. This is rotate objects and select them, and its key is E. R will be for scale. So you can easily switch between these by pressing W, E, R, W, E, R. So W moves it around, E rotates it. So what we're going to do is we're going to grab the y-axis and move it 90 degrees. Then we're going to go back into movement by pressing W or tapping here and move it back to, I think, 30. Yes, minus 30. This will be 0, 0, 0, and 0. Perfect. So that's the looks part of it done. So what that means is if I go here, you won't see anything, but if I press eject, I can actually see here is my player. There he is, he's pulsing, it's awesome, great. Now, the reason we cannot see ourselves is because there's no camera, so it's actually just going from this arrow. So what we're going to do now is we're going to add a camera. So you're going to type in camera, and that creates a camera on the player. That means that if I move this camera back 3 meters, move it up 1.5 meters, and point it down just a little bit, I should be able to now see my character. And there I am. So that creates the character and a simple movement. And so what we're going to do now is we are going to keep it like this, but we're going to, well, it's already attached to the capsule component, which means it will move with the capsule component. If you wanted to, you'd actually be able to do it in such a way that there's actually a camera boom, and the camera boom would allow you to do a bunch of other things that we don't really need right now. Camera booms are used mostly for games that you see from sides and different perspectives and all that kind of jazz. Now, do yourself a favor, while you're in the camera settings, put your field of view up to 110. As you can see, it will increase your visibility range to the sides, and that's going to be good for later. Alright, so that's the camera setup. Now let's do some movement. What I'm going to do, I'm going to delete all of this, select all and delete it. Now, under graphs, this is the cool part about Unreal Engine. You can have different things that do different graphs that do different things. So I'm going to create an input graph, and I'm going to also create a mouse input graph, just to be able to split everything up into pieces. So let's first do input. So what we're going to do is we're going to right click, which will allow us to select some actions on the blueprint, and we are going to say get player controller. The player controller is actually it's the engine's controller that we're using, but the actual player controller would be set within your game mode, which is your let's make a game mode, and here's the player controller, which is here, which we will only find within the engine files, but you can make your own. However, you do not need to unless you have certain super special controls that you want to define. Alright, so what we're doing right now is we're just getting the player controller so that we can use it. Next, we're going to get forward vector. This is going to be the backwards and forwards movement. I'm going to get the forward vector, and then from the forward vector, we're going to say add movement input. And we're going to do this twice. Alright, so the control for what I just did is if something is selected and you say control W on it, it will duplicate it. You can also right click and say duplicate, but control W is right there. You can do it easily. So select control W, and there we go. Alright, so world direction is then set by this forward vector of ours. What I'm actually going to do is I'm going to disconnect these two. If you would like to disconnect nodes, you can either right click on them and say break link, or you can hold Alt down on your keyboard and click on the actual link. Now, let's quickly reconnect that. If you are using Engine 4.8, you can actually double click on this to be able to split it up just a little bit if you'd like. Alright, now remember in the project settings we had move forward, move back, move right, move left. Now you don't have to set it up that way. You could actually just say W on your keyboard. It will do the exact same thing as what we have set up, where we said move forward. As you can see, axis event. So this gets called every single time. Well, it's getting called all the time, but it gets called mostly when you press W in this instance. Now this axis value will be the world scale, and now what we're going to do is we're going to say move backwards, and exactly the same thing is done here. So we're going to compile and press play. That means we now are able to move back and forwards. Alright, so that's backwards and forwards movement. So let's quickly make this neat. Trust me, you want to keep your nodes neat, otherwise they start to get very confusing very quickly. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create another dot here. The dots actually just allow you to rearrange the way your it lets you rearrange the way that your little nodes lie. So this is a node, this is a node, this is a node, this is a node, but each node does something different, of course. Alright, so this, we're going to now select all of this that we need to, and we're going to press C on our keyboard to create a comment. This will be forward and backward movement. Just like in real coding, you have to manage. You have to comment on your code. Alright, now let's do left and right. So what we're going to do is we're going to select get player controller and we're going to duplicate it so that we do not have to type it again, because we're smart coders and we duplicate our code. Now we're going to drag this out and we're going to type in get right vector. Remember how I said that right and forward are positive? That is why you're getting the right vector. There's no such thing as a left vector, because right is the positive. Alright, so now you have the right vector, and what you're going to do here is you're going to say move left, you're going to get the axis event, and then move right. So it's the other axis event that we need, and so we will then say we're going to select the add movement input and we're going to duplicate it once again. So adding movement to left, axis scale would go into scale value, and world direction would go into the actual vector right here. We're going to click on this node to make it neat, and so we're going to duplicate this code again, because remember, this is still coding, you're just doing it in a visual way. So the axis value goes there, this comes here, this goes a little bit like that, and now the code is all neat. Which means we can do this, put this here, and then select all of this and say C, and this is left and right movement. Might compile. I'm going to press play, and now we can move left, right, up, well, forwards and backwards, and move in complete circles. Next, we're going to add a jump function. So right click, type in jump, and as you can see, Unreal Engine actually has this coded in already where it will jump. But the problem here is if I keep pressing it, I'll actually be able to fly, because there's nothing stopping me from jumping. This is just going to actually alright, so I can only jump if I'm not on the ground. As you can see, jump, there we go. Now I can jump, move forward, move backwards, left, right, move everywhere I like. And now that I'm going to see simple code, right, selected, press C and type in jump. Now we're going to compile, and we're going to move from the input axis to the mouse input. So what you're going to do is you're going to right click and type in mouse X. Actually, sorry, mouse horizontal look. Right, so horizontal look will be on your X axis, which means this way, the way my mouse is moving. And so what we're going to do is we're going to say get player controller. Here we are, and we're going to say get rotation, get control rotation, and then we're going to add rotate. So I'm just trying to remember what the command was. Rotation. Okay, set control. No, that's not it. So I'm just trying to remember the actual thing here. Rotation. Right, I'm just really looking for the right. Oh yes, sorry. Yaw. We're looking for yaw. I think yaw. No. Pitch. And there we go. Add controller pitch input. Alright, so horizontal look will be yaw instead. So you can right click and type in yaw. Add controller yaw input. Yaw is done as on the Z axis, so horizontal look would actually flow from there, which means that our axis value will just go to there, and we don't actually need this player controller now. Let's see if this works. So if we go compile, play, and now I can actually rotate with the mouse. Now I'm not going, I'll show you how to add up and down movement, but we don't really need it because it's not that type of game, but it would be done like this. So vertical look, mouse vertical look, there we go. Now the important part about vertical look is that vertical look does not, it's actually inverted. So if you were to move your mouse up, your camera would move downwards. So what we're going to do is, under the variables tab, we're going to click on add variable, and we're going to say vertical look inverted. This is actually a boolean, which is perfectly fine, and that's exactly what we need. Compile it, and we'll make this public. So we're going to drag this out, and we're going to drag this out, and we're going to get asked a question: get or set? Now we're going to need a get, but a quick way to do this would be if you were to hold Control on your keyboard and drag this out, it would be a get. If you were to do the same thing but hold Alt, it would be a set. And that we can do in a little bit later of the tutorial for the menus. So what we're going to do now is we're going to drag this out, and we're going to type in branch or if. You can also type in if. It does the same thing, but the quicker way would be, as if this was gone, you hold B on your keyboard, click, and it will create the branch. Now, a condition is what if you were to type if you were to create an if event. That if event would need a statement that tells it what must it do if something is correct. So that if is if the vertical look is inverted. Alright, so if vertical look inverted is true, which means that the axis would be 1. So if you were to look up, if you were to move your mouse forwards, you'd look down. That means that then you can just add control pitch input of, you're going to drag this out, make this neat. So you're going to say vertical, see that under axis values you can get the vertical look, and that just lets you keep your code nice and neat. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to stretch this out because we need some more space. I'm going to scroll down to add a rewrite node just to make it look a little bit neater straight away. And if not, as you can see, if the vertical look is not inverted, what we're going to do is we're going to still add pitch input. As you can see, I used Control W there to do that, and we're going to get the mouse vertical look, which is just like that. Then what we're going to do is we're going to drag this out, and we're going to say times. Times, you're looking for a float, so a float will be times by a float, and this float is -1. So what this is doing is it's actually taking the float of your vertical look and timesing by -1, making it negative, which will then allow you, sorry, is it not pitch, is it add input, roll, would it be roll? 1 second. Okay, I know what's wrong. So the camera, you want to select use pawn control rotation, which will then let you look up and down and still move up and around. So use pawn control rotation would be useful for when you actually want to create a first-person game where this is kind of needed. But because our game doesn't really need it, I'm going to disable pawn control rotation, and I'm going to press continue and play. Now, what we can do is we can move around, and as you can see, I actually bump the table and bump the statue off the table. So I actually have physics enabled. Now what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to take this cone and I'm going to rotate it like that to -70 so I can actually see the tip. Alright, so that's movement done. So I'm going to finish this tutorial here, and that's done with movement. So thank you very much guys for watching. I'll see you next time. Stay tuned for part 3.